Everyone at some point in their lives looks at the food on their plate and needs to start asking questions about it. Where did this food come from? Who produced it? Why am I eating it? Is this good for me? We've lost our touch with where food comes from. We're no longer in touch with nature, broadly speaking, and we've lost touch with our communities. We see disconnections with the way in which food is being produced. So agriculture is moving more towards biotechnologies, and we see things like genetically engineered foods becoming more and more inherent in our food system. Currently, 60 to 70% of food, processed food in a store is GMO, genetically engineered.
What we are is one big connected circle of life. So the bacteria, us, the animals, the plants, we're all connected. And if you add a poison into any part of that cycle, it's going to eventually come back to the whole cycle. And science is finally noting that, or monitoring or observing it. The corporations that benefit from those poisons and manufacture them still have an enormous amount of power.
My worries with the present food system are enormous, and they extend from the simple fact that it's based on petroleum fertilizer, based on petroleum transportation, based on a petroleum economy, and that petroleum is a limited supply type of fuel source, which is also involved in an incredible network of economic and social injustice in terms of its extraction.
There's a lot of disruption in humans right now. There's a lot of disconnection from what we are naturally, and I think that working with plants is a really fast track to reconnecting people to their nature.
The Purple Thistle Center is a youth center for arts and activism run collectively by a group of young people. Purple Thistle Gardens came to be when basically a group of 20 or so thistlers who had been involved in the space for a little while were looking out at the street corner right across from the thistle, which was just like this grassy boulevard next to this kind of industrial venture. And they said, there should be a garden here. So they planted one. I think that kind of a part of the ethos of the thistle is not going to the experts, just going ahead and like doing something that you feel profoundly about.
So the Environmental Youth Alliance is simply about reconnecting youth to who they are, to their inner nature, by giving them access and supported positive experiences with natural space in urban settings, whether that's teaching them about growing food, inviting them into our community gardens, or working with native pollinators and creating habitat in the city, or even working with community groups on food security issues.
The Food Security Society originally was an arm of the Richmond Poverty Response Committee. So it has its roots in poverty and in social justice. Our mandate for this organization is that food is accessible for all people, that it's safe and nutritious, it's environmentally sound, it's socially just, it's accessible, and it's culturally appropriate.
What I've learned with my work with youth in the garden in terms of their desires and their needs, I think the biggest is that most of the youth that we see in the Environmental Youth Alliance are really concerned for their future. They're really upset and frustrated with the options that they've been given. They're reacting to a lot of oppression and a lot of systemic either abuse or just marginalization. And the garden, growing food, making medicine, saving seed, even learning, like I said, learning about permaculture is something that they have not necessarily been offered before. And with many of them, if not the majority of them, it resonates really deeply as something that's important, meaningful, something that empowers them to both heal themselves, begin to understand about healing the earth, and then to take it into their communities.
Permaculture is a systems design science that is based on the patterns that we see in the natural world. So instead of imposing our human constructs and our human notions of order and efficiency upon the natural world, we take cues from the natural world and use them to inform our systems.
Permaculture arose from this idea of looking at nature and looking at indigenous peoples that had lived in the same spot for thousands and thousands of years and never had to leave because they lived in such a way that they didn't deplete the resources where they were at.
Bee populations throughout North America have been impacted by climate change and pollution and are not faring so well. In fact, we rely now on imported bees for the majority of our pollination from New Zealand and Australia. So one of the efforts here is to produce a viable bee population for pollination.
Most of our native food systems are under extreme attack. One thing that we do with this garden is try to learn about also the local wild foods, and I think that's like so important beyond just gardening.
One of the things that I think really enhances positive change is that a lot of our urban agriculture visibilizes food. So our community gardens, our urban farms, our rooftop gardens, even having planters, schoolyard boxes, and we're identifying it with these natural and living landscapes. Just here in Terra Nova, there's probably 30 different ethnic backgrounds, all communicating, all talking about how they produce food, what they're doing. They're helping each other, they're organizing.
Positive social and environmental changes that I see directly arising here from practicing agriculture are reclamation of public space, to interact with each other on a basis that is around learning and around sharing and around having conversations about our food system, about capitalism. If you don't know anything about gardening, I think you'll find just by doing something, by planting those first seeds, there's a natural intuition. You'll find that maybe you have ancestors that are working through your hands in some way.
I would definitely say I don't believe in black thumbs. The first thing is to pay attention. Plants are amazing communicators. It was a very healing experience for me to learn how to grow food organically, to see how fertile the earth is and how it responds when you work with it. That set inside me a real desire to pass that on to people in the city.